In Australian cricket, it's hard to think of two bigger names than Shane Warne and Andrew Symonds. And even more difficult to digest is the fact that within months of each other, the cricketing world lost both of these legends. In today's video, we're talking about what Shane had in mind for Andrew Symonds and how his wishes were, sadly, never fulfilled. Let's get started. First up, he couldn't believe it. After the devastating and unexpected death of Andrew Symonds, tributes were flooding in from people all across the world. And a tale from the Aussie legend Adam Gilchrist about Warne and Symonds left fans and peers feeling bittersweet. Gilchrist shed light on how Warne offered the all-rounder a job on the London Spirit coaching staff for the 100 competition in England. Warne, who was appointed head coach of the franchise just before his death in March, wanted to bring along Symonds as an assistant. But, and keep your tissues close, what Symonds didn't know until later was that Warne was going to pay him out of his pocket because the Spirit didn't have space for an additional assistant in their budget. So Warne was going to pay him exactly how much he would have made as an assistant coach out of his own fees. Yeah, we're crying. Shane Warne was a softie. Gilly said that he spent the day with Symonds after Warne's big farewell, where the star told him this story, and he said he had trouble believing it at first. He mentioned how upset Roy was at the loss of his former teammate and friend. We all were. Gilly also said that Roy had built his whole life around a sense of friendship, and he was loyal to a fault, and that's why everybody adored him. What guys? What a friendship. What a story. Gilly, you're breaking our hearts. We're absolutely shattered. We never got to see this happen. We were robbed. Next, we have Shane Warne's death. Shane Warne died of a heart attack in Koh Samui, Thailand, earlier this year. The Australian legend was 52 years old at the time of his death. The news of his demise came as an absolute shocker to everybody around the world. Warne is considered one of the greatest cricketers of all time. He had a stellar career with 708 test wickets in just 145 matches. He was an inspiration to fans and players around the world, and there never has been any like him. He was one of a kind. While the King of Spin retired from the sport in 2007, he worked as a cricket commentator and was just as good at it. He was also in various coaching roles, including with the London Spirit in the first edition of the 100 last year. His loss was felt around the world, with tributes pouring in from all corners. Fans, rivals, and teammates all took to social media to express their grief. His memorial was held at his beloved Melbourne Cricket Ground. It was attended by cricket legends, celebrities, and political leaders, and it was broadcast live around the world. Nasser Hussain, the former England captain, traveled from New Zealand to Australia to attend the ceremony and called Warne larger than life, which he was. Shane Warne transcended the game of cricket. He inspired a legion of fans, and everybody wanted to be like him. He'll be terribly missed by everybody who loves this sport. And now, on to Andrew Symonds' death. Last month, Andrew Symonds died in a car crash at the age of 46. His car left the roadway and rolled, and while the emergency services tried to revive him, he passed away from his injuries. Once again, this news came as a complete shocker to everybody around the world. The all-rounder played 26 tests and almost 200 one-day internationals for Australia. He was part of the team that won the ODI World Cup in 2003 and 2007. He was often regarded as a player from the future. He could do it all. Roy's untimely death was mourned all across the world. Family, friends, teammates, and fans gathered at Townsville's Riverway Stadium for a public memorial service. His former teammates talked about his impact on their lives on and off the field. His friends spoke of his life and legacy. Darren Lehman called him the best player he had ever coached. Adam Gilchrist said what stuck with him the most was how highly everybody talked about Symonds' life outside of cricket. He was an absolute gem, and his absence will be felt by fans all around the world. In this unfortunate turn of events, it's devastating we never got to see Warne and Roy coach the London Spirit together. We know they would have had a blast, and it was gestures like this that made the two men so widely loved around the world. We genuinely hope they're throwing a ball up there and sharing a laugh. It's been a tough few months for cricket fans, particularly Australian fans. Cricket will always remember these legends and their contributions to the game, and they will live on forever in the hearts of everybody who loved and admired them. Rest in peace, Warne and Symonds, and thank you for all the memories. That's all about Shane Warne's super kind gesture to Andrew Symonds. Now let's move on to some other cricket-related news. Oh, Jimmy. Jimmy Anderson is back to taking test wickets, and the world is healing. After what felt like forever, test cricket has returned. New Zealand is touring England, and their first test began on June 2nd with the home team bowling first. There are very few sights in test cricket more pleasing than Jimmy Anderson bowling at home. The 39-year-old is currently the third leading wicket taker in the history of test cricket, only behind Muralitharan and Warne. This is the 170th test match, and by the looks of it, he's as good as ever. Veteran bowlers Anderson and Braun opened the spell for England, and that's never an easy challenge for whoever's facing them. This time was no different. Although this was Jimmy's comeback game after being dropped for the West Indies series, it was like he never left. He got both openers, Tom Latham and Will Young, in his opening spell. New Zealand got all out for 132, with Anderson claiming 4 wickets in 16 overs. He still got it. Welcome back, Jimmy. You were thoroughly missed. Next up, Jack Leach. Out. Jack Leach, the left-arm English spinner, had to withdraw from the first test against New Zealand after suffering concussion symptoms due to a heavy fall in the outfield. Now his participation in the second test is also doubtful. Jack, who was playing in his first test match at home in 3 years, sustained the injury when he was chasing a Devon Conway drive to the backward point boundary in the 6th over of the day. As he dived and successfully dragged the ball back from the edge of the rope, he landed very heavily on his head and hurt his neck in the process. Ouch. Both teams' medical staff rushed to the field and attended to him for a while before he was able to walk back to the pavilion. After ECB's subsequent examination, he was withdrawn from the game as he had symptoms of a concussion. England chose Matt Parkinson, the 25-year-old Lancashire leg spinner, to replace Jack. Matt literally arrived at Lord's an hour before play closed on the first day. Good timing, Matt. We hope Jack Leach is doing okay, and he's back to playing in no time. And now for 17 wickets on day 1. England bowled out New Zealand for 132, only to end the first day at 116 for 7. Although the Kiwis won the toss and chose to bat first, the conditions favored England. With the help of the debutant Matthew Potts and the ever-so-reliable Jimmy Anderson, both picking up 4 wickets each, New Zealand were done for just 132 in the first innings. It was thanks to Colin de Grandhomme, 42, not out that took his team to even a 132, because at one point they were 45-7. The last 3 wickets added 87 runs to New Zealand's total. England were in a seemingly comfortable position to set up for their second test win in 18 games, but in a series of inexplicable strokes, the hosts went from 59-0 to 92-2 to 116-7. The team lost 5 wickets for just 8 runs and ended the day. What happened? English bowlers did their job. Now it's up to their batters to play their part. As the team has been struggling recently, Ben Stokes was brought on as captain to lead England into a new era. And while they were off to a good start, it came crashing down with their batting. But it's okay. This was just day 1. We'll see if the batsmen show up in the next innings. Lastly, Lord's rises for Shane Warne. On the opening day of England versus New Zealand, players of both teams lined up side by side, and the capacity crowd at the Lord's Stadium stood up in unison for a 23-second applause after the 23rd over of the day. This was done as a tribute to the legendary Australian leg spinner, Shane Warne, whose shirt number was 23 throughout his career. What a gesture. We hope he's smiling up there. That's a wrap for this video. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most wholesome thing ever, how wholesome do you think this Warne gesture was? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.